Hello, hello, hello.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome to our down home visit. Continuing here with our visits with the Vandalia Award recipients. Today we have Russ Butcher and Ruby Butcher sitting right here. I'm John Lilly. This is Jerry Mills. And we're going to visit a little bit with Russ. What year was it they gave you the Vandalia Award? Do you recall? Was it 99?
Yeah, I think that.
In 1999. We're glad to have you here. This is a very informal visit. Those of you just joining us, we're just going to talk to Russ a little bit about his life and his farming and his dancing and whatever Russ feels like talking about.
Russ, your roots are in Braxton County, aren't they?
Yes.
What?
I was raised over in Braxton County. Actually, I was raised in Bellefonte in Braxton County. That's about as far as you can get back in the mountains. They got them started in there.
What year were you born?
23, May 8th. I just turned 85 years old.
Good for you.
Let's see, Bellefonte, that's on Steer Creek?
Yes.
Okay.
You're familiar with that.
Yeah. And had your people been there a long time?
My dad moved down there. He was raised in Webster County, and his first job was with the state hospital in Weston years ago, and he married Douglas from Lewis County at that time. And Lewis County, the Douglases, is where they got the music ability.
Okay.
From, if you're acquainted with Jerry
Yeah.
Douglas, he's one of my second cousins, and his father, first cousin. He still has a band.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's see, there's a lot of musicians around Braxton County who were from that family as well.
Yes, from that family and from that area.
Zida McQueen used to play for the Dances. She was related to the Douglas.
She's my first cousin. She's still playing.
Is she?
Yeah, she's over by him. She's got two other ladies about her age. If they can get to a place that needs entertainment, they'll go out and sing for them.
So, Russ, if you grew up on Steer Creek, did you get introduced to old time dancing at that time?
No, I never got introduced to old time dancing. See, it's very conservative. And I was a Methodist. They don't believe in back in there. They don't believe in dancing. They don't believe in playing back then. They always stringed instruments. Now, if you want to have a tuning fork, that's all right. But when you go beyond that, then you're getting over in the sin category. And so later I come to Flatwoods, neighbor Flatwoods, and there's 9 kids in my family, and none of them ever went to college. There's 3 of us that graduated from high school, and we had 8 boys and a girl. So Dad had all these boys, and when he got caught up with the work, like my Douglas first cousins lived out Heaters out there, he'd loaned me to them. Or he'd say, well, take a rush for as long as it takes you to work out your cold patch. So I knew that I was going to move from residence for a few days. And I had an Uncle Cal Douglas that actually is John Douglas's father. That we'd hoe corn in the daytime. I'd work the horse. I guess I was 11 or 12 years old, but I worked the horse. And then Elsie, his third wife, and Charlotte and John, my uncle wasn't able to work hoe corn at that time, but we had a crew. And then after we had dinner in the evening, he had an old wind-up phonograph with all these fiddle tunes on it. and he'd put them tunes on. And first thing you know, he was crawling on the floor, moving up and down. And I thought, oh boy, that's fun. If I just get into that, I'd be going someplace. So I got started that, and then without my parents knowing about it, I'd slip out with having a square dance every once in a while. And first thing I knew, I was called square dances. And
Where was that? Where were you calling?
Well, at Morrison Ridge, mainly. Out there, you know, by Bowling Green, there's an old schoolhouse. They done away with it years ago and made a community building. And that is kind of high back in the woods there, hills, and Uncle Major Dean and Dana Dean back in there, they're both dancers. And we would go to the dance. Up Camp Holly Gray, when they built the 4-H camp up there years ago by the WPA. And when they built that, we'd have a weekend camp up there. Most of the time we'd dance. Harley Cutler from down near Gasway was our club leader. And so we'd get up there, we'd dance in the evening. And then the people from Highwoods, they began to come up and check on to see what it was doing, and they found out it was dancing up there. And they reported to my dad. They said, if you, they wanted to talk to him. He's chopping wood. He didn't want to much be bothered anyway when I was chopping wood, but he, my older brother, and the other parishioners that had a daughter in the 4-H club, and the preacher came down and said, well, we need to talk to you, Mr. Butcher. Well, what's the trouble? Well, he said, we've heard Russ has been square dancing. Said he's been reported to us that he's even called some square dances. If you don't get him straightened up, he's going straight to hell. Well, they had thought for a while, and I was ready to leave home. So I had to feed me another roses. And he thought a while, and he said, man, he said, the boy hasn't caused me any trouble yet. And if I need help, I'll call you. And he just went on chopping wood. Well, that relieved me for a while, but some 35 years later, after I'd fought all the battles, even I got the point as a 4-H club agent in Boone County and later in Nicholas County that I wrote a dance book with the dances that we done. Like I didn't call it folk dancing, I called it rhythmatic games. We got by with that. But then I found out that the first job, and the reason my father married a girl from Lewis County, his first job was with the mental institution there in Weston. He had to square dance with those people in there about three nights a month. And so I didn't find out about this till much later when he told me when he was at the hospital one time with a broken back. He said, the things that you're doing is not much different than what the preacher does. It's kind of build character and help young people. And then he said, I want you to know, he said, I got my start square dancing. and then I got really upset. And so he said, well, I don't think it'd hurt you. And he said it wouldn't do me any good to tell him. So I got my start there. And then in 1962, Well, that's after I was a 4-H club agent, and I had graduated from Berea College. And one of the first things I done was to join the Berea Country Dancers. All the students had to work and would go to school down there. And I went in the middle of the semester when I got back from the Army. And the only thing they had available for me was to wash pots and pans in the big kitchen. I done that for a semester, and I had a little time to think of where I'd go to from there. So I got up enough nerve to go over to the girls' phys ed department and ask them if there was any work over there I could do next semester. And the lady, Mrs. McCauley, asked me what I could do, and I said, just about anything you want to. I thought they didn't mean anything to be washing pots and pans. But and he said, well, I'm looking for someone who can folk dance with the girls' phys ed department. And I said, I'm your boy. And so she said, you start the first of the semester. You can figure out what you're going to do. Well, I lied to her partly because I could square dance, but to know about English and European dances and Russian dances and even dances from Hawaii, they come along well much later, and I didn't know about that. But we had a student in Berea, the name of Foster Burgess, that lived in New York City. And he said there's a fellow by the name of Michael Herman and Mary Ann, the leading folk dancers in the country. And I said, Russ, get a hold of him and see if I can go home with you at Easter or Christmas. Well, I went home with him, and he said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll teach you a dance if you'll buy the record from me. Well, you'll have to have the records anyway. And I said, that's about as good a deal as you can get. So I come back with a new box, about 50 records in a steel box. I'm still using some of those records. But then in 1962, at that time Harley Cullip, who was my 4-H club agent, years before in Braxton County, he was director of Jackson's Mill at this time. He asked me if I wouldn't get a dance team together and travel over West Virginia and go to the state parks and go to different places and have dance weekends. And that's right down my line. And of course, she's talking to Jane George, and she was part of that training that we do out, and she was had added the English and the Scottish part of that. Although the Berea Country Dance director was Frank Smith, he was an Englishman. So he done a lot for dancing in Appalachia throughout the region. So there was, wanting to do something for the centennial year of 63, it would be 100 years old. So we had, that's the year we started the Arts and Crafts Fair at Cedar Lakes. And for the next 33 years, I had a dance team there for the week, 33 years. And in the meantime, the people from Bob Evans over in Ohio, Gallia County, asked me if I wouldn't come over there and do a dance show 2 or 3 times during the day, and then do a public dance in the evening. Went over there to work with them. I worked over there 19 years with them. And even after I retired. And then in about 1965 to 70, I started working with Opportunity Kids, or when President Johnson declared war on poverty, I thought I might as well join him. So we started an opportunity camp, and I got Millie Christman, who was a folk dancer from Texas, to help me with it. And she done a lot for us in simple dances. We were teaching kids the social justice and working with each other in the public. So started working with them. So Thumb Pickens was 4-H agent in Webster County. She said, why don't we join together and start a dance camp and have our kids from 2 counties come in for a dance camp. Well, then there was kids from Randolph County and some kids from over in Jefferson County and eastern Panhandle come over. And first thing you know, we had more people than we could handle over there. So I called Harley Cutlip, see if we couldn't move it to Jackson's Mill. And it's still going on there, and my son and daughter-in-law and son-in-law, they're still active in that camp. And then my grandchildren, like there's one of them that's still in the dancing business. They're working with that dance camp there.
Those dances that you grew up, or you learned there in Braxton County.
Yes.
Well, I don't want to get sidetracked here, but you mentioned Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea, I've always wondered when I'm driven through there, how that place got its name?
I don't know how it got its name, but that was a favorite place for people to come together and play ball. And as a recreation area for the community. Well, it had a school in that community, and years ago, the school in the community was the center of the community. And they all gathered there and they played ball and they just started to call it Bowling Green.
Did you ever run into some figure callers there that were from the Mays family?
Yes.
Did you know some of them?
Yes.
Were they, I think maybe Budge and Fudge Mays, the old musicians.
Yes, they were there, and Buddy Starcher is from Craigsville. He finally came back there, and then people like I can't remember what the name is now, from Heaters. A lady is one of the best fiddlers.
Sarah Singleton?
Sarah Singleton, yes. And anywhere she was playing, I was there to call figures. And she was a good dancer, yeah. And so we've got some of her either granddaughters or great granddaughters in Nicholas County, and one of them graduated from Linville with a degree in string music. Buddy Griffin was her teacher. And now she's got a job somewhere now already.
Those dances they did there, can you describe what dances they were and how big was the room? So how many people could dance together?
Well, we done different size room and different size depending on the space. I had the dance team, we usually had a dance team, and sometimes in Nicholas County had as many as 6 or 8 dance teams in the county at the same time. And we had dances over Camp Caesar for the State Department of Education several years. And we would do, we call them singing games to start with. That they could start without any phonograph or all this electric equipment. They could do that, and then we would branched out into doing square dancing with 4 couples in the set, and then we finally got doing some Russian dances, some dances from Europe to have large groups, and we started dancing at Fairmont State Teachers College. Dr. Will Meyer University. Dr. Will Meyer from West Virginia University was very instrumental in getting us started up there. So it's just spread over the county. I mean, over the state, and I expect they have, to dance camp, they have more than 300 kids that each, and you've helped with that, familiar with that.
Rush, the dances that you learned in Braxton County, did you find that they were similar to some of the international dances
Yes.
that you learned later?
Yes, like Red River Valley, Four in a Boat, and then Circassian Circle in many forms, that you'd sing it. Several dances. Four in a Boat. That's right, that's where we started.
What do you think's the cause of that?
Because of what?
The similarity. You think these started as European dances and were
Yes.
picked up by people in West Virginia?
Yes, many of the dances are, come from Scandinavian countries. And then later on, when Millie Crispin passed away, she gave me all of the records she had, and I've got boxer records. I expect I've got 500 of her records with Western square dance tunes on it. And there's one in there of Hawaiian dances. And my granddaughter back here has been teaching Hawaiian dances at the state dance camp. Their hula skirts and the whole business over there. So it just started as a small thing in the community, and it just kind of spread. And I had a lot of help along the way. Well, a lot of people that was interested in dancing, and some of the best dancers and callers. Like when I had these opportunity camps that I mentioned earlier, I had an opportunity to use some of this money that I got for work study kids to have them in camp. Bud Griffin, George Ward, was two of them. I can't think of any more right now that stuck with it, but they stuck with it. And I might tell you one thing. I told Buddy Griffin that if he come out to work for me, all he'd have to do is teach him how to play music. So one of my boys had to go home, and they had disturbance in the home, and he had to leave. And I said, Buddy, you're going to have to open stitches today. And he said, look at these hands, and said, see them hands? They're just not made for washing dishes. But he washed the dishes. But and I found him to be a real good teacher.
What do you think the future is for old-time dancing?
I think it's coming back. Were you over at dance camp this past year? Well, you see the enthusiasm and the interest, and there's not too much teaching that the teachers have to teach when they go in there, because they've been there before and they're repeaters. Come back, and so when they get back, you take a few new ones in, but the ones that's there, and by the time 3 days has passed, they're doing about all the dances we do, even some very difficult dances. And then all these people that contribute to the Vandalia gathering here, they make their contribution to that camping program up there and the camping program in West Virginia. All over the state, really.
Have you ever been involved with contra dancing?
Yes. We do a lot of contra dances, or I did. Come from England. Most generally. Forward up, 6 and back. And the long 8. And we got a whole list of them to run down. We can do contra dances all evening. And sometimes they won't do that. And some of these people out here, some of these dances they do, come from the country dances. Not a type. But you take the European dances, they use pretty much the same pattern. And then I had a son that went to Holland, the work study person, an exchange student. And when he returned, he came back with a whole new album of Dutch dances. And I thought, well, when I'm beginning into the Dutch dances, we ought to have a pair of Dutch shoes. So I wrote to them and I asked them if the possibility that they could make me some shoes. So, and they wrote back and told me to have to measure their feet. I couldn't tell what size it was. Their size was different from ours. So I sent the size of the feet to them, and about 3 weeks later, I got, I think about 12 or 14 pair of shoes that I still have, and we still use them. And from their money, I thought I was really broke, but they let me have these shoes at the regular price over, I guess, about $6 a pair for the shoes that last all these years.
Now, Rush, you worked as an extension agent, is that the work you did?
I was extension agent for 30 years.
For Nicholas County?
I was in Boone County first. And then I transferred to Nicholas County.
And that's how you got to Nicholas County where you live there now, right?
Yes, my parents are still living when I come to Nicholas County, and that was just across the mountain there in Braxton. I get over with my parents. And I could be some help to them while I was in the area.
So was there a relationship between your work as an extension agent and your work with folk dancing? Did these two work together?
There's one and the same thing. Like we have recreation projects in 4-H club work. But from the State Department of Education, and they encouraged me to do more of this type of thing in the schools. Go out in the school and part of the classwork. I might tell you about one experience when I was at Cowan High School in Webster County. And the girl over there, she's principal of that school, but she's running for office now for a state senator from that county. Anyway, she would invite me over since she was a Nicholas County 4-H'er years gone by. And we went over and had the square days with them. And I went back over to deliver some material through the Soil Conservation District that I work with. And the kids said, "Oh boy, here comes Mr. Butcher. We won't have to go to school this afternoon, go dance."
When you went to these schools, did you bring, to show them the dancing, did you bring your box of records with you?
Carried records with them. And then Jackson's Mill and some of the places, I have as many as, they're not real good systems now, but we have as many as 5 systems that we can set up in different rooms for different dancing. And you go out to local school, and the teachers, they may tell you what kind of dance they want to do. Well, do the kind of dances they want to do.
What kind of dances would they usually want to do?
Circle dances, square dances, long way sets, contra dances. And one time, went over, there's an organization between to the hotel in Greenbrier in Greenbrier County, West Sulphur Springs. And I worked out a set of dances with just about what they done this afternoon up here. I was going to put on a show for the dances that we do here and over in the state of West Virginia. That's typical, the type we do here, and put on a show. A.J. Mansion was living in, that's right back there, and he was on the program before, and he wanted to come back to Charleston. So he said, people, he said, butchers, they're going to do dancing here. But I said, I've got to leave, I've got to go to Charleston. Oh, I need to like the square dance come out on the floor, and he'll teach you. And I could go to the floor, because there'd been a hole there. But I just called the dancers together that I had with me where to put on a show, and I said, now, we're going to change your program for this. We're going to teach dances that we can teach them just in a minute. They do it. And I suspect we had 100 or 150 people dancing over in the Greenbrier Hotel. And we found out later that we was in a bomb shelter over there. But they use it now for several public affairs.
What did the Vandalia Award mean to you?
Well, I was glad to get it, and it's well worth having the award. But all the way through everything that I've done, I've never done things for the recognition. And it's just hanging there with the other awards that I've received down the line. And that's not the motivating factor that give me motivation to go on and do something. I do it for the quality of work that we can instill in boys and girls and kids. And some of these kids that I work with, lots of them are going on, maybe they're not teaching in physical education, or they're not teaching folk dancing as I teach it, but they're supportive of dancing throughout the state of West Virginia. And you can see it at Jackson Mill, that the adults that come back there and that'll go on. And about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, they decided that they'd have to cut down on the camps at Jackson's Mill that wasn't paying their own way. They had one fellow on the staff of the Extension Service that they sent down there to monitor the camp. And he said, that's one camp that's going to have to go, because they've got they got a staff of 35 people. We can't justify 35 people to operate a camp. Well, they come around and talk to me, and I ask them what it was costing. Well, we don't know what our people charge and what the cost is. We never paid a dime. And people were willing to come in and work even for the people we had to keep monitors in there that walked the ground and made sure that all the campers were where they're supposed to be. We've never had any problems with them, because we had parents that was interested with the kids and come in and gladly devoted their time.
Well, Rush, we're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you, Rush. And Ruby, it's good to have you here, Cherry Melons, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes with Lester McCumbers. Thank you very much.
I might mention another thing off the record here. When I was teaching folk dancing in Berea, she was in the first class. And I haven't really got her trained yet.